What up, world? This is the GoalNet recording live here from outside of Chicago. And today is part one of the two-part review format compliant with the Instagram TV format. 15 minutes on the glove and blocker, 15 minutes on the leg pads, 30-minute total review. We'll get into it as much as we can. Love the format, but as always, so excited to chat gear with everybody that there's times I just run out of getting it all in. Hopefully we all enjoyed this review. So filming this in late February 2020, this gear has been out for almost a year. Please wear your mask, stay safe. We are still stuck in this pandemic, so it's been an extremely weird year for, I'm sure, everybody getting out onto the ice, wearing gear, potentially going to the store and buying new gear. I'd have to go back and look at the calendar, but personally didn't skate for a few months, skated, had to stop again, been skating again. But the good news is in that period of time was fully able to get a great test of the 2020 CCM Axis gear. This video is not going to explain all of the features of Axis or how it compares to eFlex or Premier 2. Check out my YouTube page. That content does exist. Today's discussion is really going to focus on how does the gear perform. So if you're not aware about CCM Axis, it is CCM's first completely new line since the eFlex launched. This line replaces the Premier line within the family. So the lines moving forward will be Axis and eFlex. Anybody watching the NHL this year has seen the eFlex 5 on guys like Markstrom and Demko. So we know what the 21 product looks like. And spoiler alert, we'll be testing that. Tons of new tech packed into that gear, so we'll be really excited to get that. But let's dive in to the review. I'm actually gonna start with the blocker, and believe it or not, I think the blocker is one of the pieces of gear that had the biggest transformation going from Premier and becoming a completely new product, being the Axis. So why are we starting with this blocker on the side view image? The reason being, it is thin. One of the biggest things I noticed picking up the Axis blocker is how light and how thin it is. I don't think it's that often that you pick up a blocker and truly appreciate how different a piece of gear it is versus the model it replaced. A lot of times we're talking about the stiffness of the sidewall or the hot rebounds off the blocker face, which is stuff you need to get out on the ice and get hit with pucks with to appreciate. Not so with Axis. You will absolutely appreciate the lightweight design of this blocker just trying it on in a retail environment. So definitely wanted to highlight that because I think it is one of the best features of this blocker is the lightweight. One of the other things I really love about this blocker is the new segmented cuff design. Premier 2, I think, was the first CCM blocker to premiere the new one-piece Velcro cuff offering. Tried it because I thought it looked clean compared to the classic wide-open lace design. But quite frankly, I wasn't a huge fan of that design because there were times that I felt when I tried to engage the concept of Velcroing it a bit tighter so that I felt connected to the blocker, I felt like it decreased my range of motion and actually interfered with my chest protector. Not so at all with the Axis blocker. Gives you a bit more of the connected feeling with the one-piece cuff, but it has some new articulation as part of the blocker. And that is a huge benefit. As you can see here, there is a seam and there's a seam. So when you try the blocker on, this piece, and you can see there's elastic right there. That piece actually flexes really well with you while wearing the blocker. So that makes a huge difference. Molded piece as well that's there is pretty cool. Designed to give you a little bit of extra padding in like the RVH when your hand could be exposed, maybe in some unique positions. As you can see, no puck marks there. Didn't really get to test that out. One of the things though you can see with this blocker are the puck marks on the face. So probably the number one people want to know about blocker performance this day and age is how hot are the rebounds. Rebounds are absolutely hot off this blocker. This is an improvement compared to the Premier 2 and compared to the E-Flex. I don't know that it's the hottest rebound on the market per se. Unfortunately, I don't have the testing mechanisms to really answer that correctly. And I also don't know, compared to all the gear that I test, that I'd be comfortable saying that. But I think compared to almost any other blocker on the market that people own, this is probably going to be hotter. And specifically, if you've got a blocker that's 2 or 3 years old, you've got an older E-Flex model, you've got an older Premier, maybe you have some other brand that's 2, 3, 4 years old, definitely think the Axis is going to be an upgrade for you in terms of performance. If you're not aware what's the benefit of a hotter rebound, the goal is to get the puck away from you as quickly as possible so that you have time to recover, get the puck out of play and get a whistle, etc. So hot blocker rebounds are definitely a piece of performance in a goal gear that can actually give you the opportunity to become a better goalie. So definitely a feature I advise people looking into when you are looking to buy a new blocker. One of the other key changes on this blocker, which is something I'd asked CCM for years, I'd imagine I was not the only one, just in the context of it actually came to retail, which means I think a lot of people must have been like-minded with me, and that is tight fit. CCM has always been the leader in the customizer. I'll talk about that a bit more probably in the leg pad review, but their menu style for custom options is fantastic. They have one of the richest libraries of features available, and they also make it very easy to understand between pictures and, as I say, kind of ordering off the menu, versus, like a Brian's, you can call and order anything under the sun, but at some point it can almost be a little bit confusing because you have to know what you want, versus CCM, they spell out, this is everything we will do for you, and that's great. So with leg pads, you've always been able to get a loose fit, a tight fit, or an ultra tight fit. They took that same concept and applied that to the blocker. And following up with where I started on the review about the connected cuff, this is designed to make you feel more connected to the blocker. So this might be hard to show in the video, but basically what this is getting for us is that gray pad inside the blocker that rests on the back of your hand. So the pad between the back of the blocker board and where you rest your hand. There's actually additional padding in there so that when I slide my hand in, it's a snugger fit. So I don't have to crank this wrist strap really tight to have my blocker feel tight. And the range of motion is fantastic. So you've got that cuff articulating there and then the tight fit. So the wrist strap is nice and loose, which I think is key on a blocker to give you good range of motion. But because of that extra padding, it enables the blocker to feel very snug on your hand. So huge kudos to CCM for bringing that option out. In the last piece of the blocker that I want to talk about in the highs are the index finger. I believe CCM pioneered this technology a couple releases ago, but it is D3O on the index finger. A lot of products on the market today, like the paddle wedge or the goalie block, because we are going to get pucks that kind of ramp up the shaft and ride it like a ski jump. Hit our index finger. CCM puts the D3O foam in there, which is basically going to give you as much protection as you can and that given foam offset. So love having the D3O padding in the finger. Definitely notice a difference there in terms of protection, and I do not notice it negatively in terms of hindering finger motion. So the highs for this blocker are the new cuff, the tight fit, the rebounds, the lightweight, and the finger protection. Now, in terms of things I would love to see improved on the Axis blocker in a future iteration like the Axis 2 is a lot of it's with the sidewall. As you can see staring at it, I got the straight finger protection and I still have that black binding edge. I'm a big fan of no binding as much as possible. So I would love to see CCM make the straight finger protection available with the no binding sidewall. The other thing that I'd like to see them do potentially in a future Axis is, even though the sidewall protection is pretty ample there, it does give a little bit. As you can see, I got some puck marks. Don't think that I got any injuries or noticeable pain there. You can see that one right on the stick's a pretty good long one. But just in the context of what the design could be, I would definitely like to see, hopefully maybe an Axis 2 have a bit of a stiffer sidewall on that blocker along with the bindingless design. And the one other thing too in this blocker, I don't know that I really call it a fault, but I got a couple stingers, which isn't something I can necessarily say I've had happen too many times, if ever, but definitely probably about twice that I can think of. It wasn't at all like getting a glove stinger, but just sort of feeling the puck a bit on the backhand from the blocker was something that I hadn't really noticed before. By no means deterred the performance. Again, no injury, not anything like getting a forearm stinger and a chest protector or a glove palm stinger and a glove. But again, just kind of an unusual quirk I noticed a couple times with this blocker. And again, kind of mentioned it, one of the highs of this blocker are the rebounds. And again, I think depending on what blocker you're coming from, you'll really notice it. But again, if I were giving CCM advice on stuff I'd like to see improved in the Axis 2 future product release, assuming that's what the next line would be, replacing Axis in a few years, I would love to see hotter rebounds. That's something I'm going to ask for in all products. That's a piece of innovation I think, again, as I mentioned earlier, enables the goalie to play better. So definitely want to see the hottest rebounds available in all the products that I test. So wow, we just spent 11 minutes talking about a blocker. That only leaves us 4.5, 3.5, whatever that math is for the glove. So we got to cram this in quickly. Did that by design though. Like I said, the blocker is probably one of the biggest changes in the Axis line, and it's a big thing to know. As you can see looking at the video, this is a 580 glove. One of the highs for CCM will always be the customizer. And the fact that you can get the 600, the 590, the 580, huge to CCM. You can also get the single T or double T and the +1 pocket depth, skate lace or nylon. So tons of options. You can really dial in a glove the way that you like. So huge kudos to CCM with that. And all of their breaks are really tried and true as well. I think every single goalie in hockey at least understands there's a 600, a 590, a 580. CCM makes that really clear. And I think even most goalies have a feel for, if I were to use CCM product tomorrow, what break would I use? And I think that's huge just in terms of transparency or consumer understanding. One of the other big improvements is the game ready break on this glove. So spoiler alert, I may reference this later in the video as a negative as well. But as you can see, the seal is pretty solid. I did not clamp this or modify it. And this is just from using the glove. I don't do anything other than tie it up or stretch it. Always do that just to really show the closure and the game ready break. So huge kudos to CCM for doing better than they did on eFlex and Premier 2. However, in the context of some of the game ready breaks available in the market, CCM is still a bit behind on that. And I know, talking to CCM, challenge is always finding that balance between proper palm protection and game ready, because when you take too much padding out of the palm, which can improve the closure, you run the risk of, opening the glove up to more stingers. And there's a good look at the +1 depth on the pocket there, single T, skate lace. And one of the other things to segment off of with the game ready break is in the middle of the back of the glove. So right above the word Axis, right here on the glove, we can see a 3D molded piece that is designed to give you better impact absorption on the backhand to cover your hands. Love seeing innovation. So it's great that CCM added this into the glove. And one of the huge benefits of this is that it didn't hinder the closure. As I mentioned, CCM was able to add more padding to the glove without adding, without reducing the closure. All right, so got about 30 seconds left for the couple things I didn't like about the glove is toward the tip of your fingers, right below the word Axis, about where that extra pad is. If you've got a pretty big hand, I do get a pinching feeling. It doesn't hinder the closure, isn't so bad that you can't wear it, but it definitely takes a bit away from the glove comfort. And secondly, back to things I would change, would love to see a floating cuff design where the strap wraps around the wrist instead of pulling the goalie's hand forced into the back of the